It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
I think you did. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight, 6 minutes past the hour. Robert Clotworthy, the voice of Ancient Aliens and the Curse of Oak Island Gold. Robert Clotworthy, popular guest, great broadcaster, amazing voice, and America's best storyteller by definition. Nobody has more listeners than Robert Clotworthy. Hello, Robert.
Hey, Walter. How are you?
I'm excited to talk to you. Now, you're looking at another season, a new season, a continuing season of Ancient Aliens. And it always intrigues me to talk with you about possible reveals that might come up this season on Ancient Aliens. And I'm begging you, could you share with us like one secret that might be revealed on Ancient Aliens this season?
Well, I'll give you a couple because I was looking at this one script that I did, and we talked about it briefly when I was with you a couple of weeks ago about the underwater bases. And I was looking at it, and my memory was refreshed because it's kind of fascinating. There's actually a video, you probably are aware of this, that some drones had taken off the coast of Yemen back in 2024, and they apparently were flying over the water at a very high rate of speed, and the U.S. actually fired a Hellfire missile at it. Now, I saw the video. We're showing it on the show, but it's a very, very short video. Apparently, the long version is about 5 minutes. All that's been released is maybe 30, 45 seconds or so. And the missile hits this thing, but it almost like it goes right through it. It doesn't explode.
Whoa.
A couple of pieces fall off of it, but it continues to fly.
Whoa.
And even the pieces that fall off travel with it. And they actually had a congressional hearing just last year, tail end of last year, about this. And the Congress people wanted to see the full version of it, and they were denied access to it. But it's a fascinating video, what we do have. It's incredible.
Approximately what altitude would you estimate that craft was flying at?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It seemed like it was lower over the water because the video that you have is pointing down at it. It's not looking up at it. And you see the missile coming, and just nothing happens. You'd expect a Hellfire missile; it's going to explode. And Travis Taylor said it behaved as if the missile hit a balloon, but it was going way faster than any balloon is going to go, and it kept traveling. And this video, the full-length video, goes for about 5 minutes.
Had you ever seen anything like it before? If it hit a balloon would have disintegrated or fallen down. It wouldn't have just bounced it off, right?
Yeah, it's like it bounced off it or went through it. It had no effect on it, or the balloon would pop. But this thing just kept going. A couple of pieces fell off, but it's not like they went off in different directions. They just kind of separated and then gathered back together with this thing and kept going at the same speed.
Off the coast of Yemen.
Off the coast of Yemen. This happened in 2024. So it's just a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago.
Right. So just to repeat what you said, the missile that hit it, was that coming from an Air Force plane or from the ground? Do you know?
I would assume it was. I don't know if the drones have those Hellfire missiles on them, or if it came from a fighter jet. But it's off the coast of Yemen, so there's no U.S. bases there. It would have come from an aircraft carrier or a fighter jet that's going through the water there. But it was it's a Hellfire U.S. missile that they decided it was hostile. Let's go after it, and the missile had no effect.
When you saw this for the first time, what was your gut reaction? Were you afraid, or were you intrigued?
I was intrigued. You look at it and you think, how is that possible? How could that happen? We've seen enough videos of missiles hitting things, and there's just an explosion. It's pretty dramatic, and you can see the missile fly right through it. It just comes from the left side and just has no effect. Nothing. You just see, and how is that possible? Could the U.S. just, what were they firing at nothing? There was some kind of an echo off the radar. There was some kind of weird anomaly. Was a cloud? No, it was something you can see that it's traveling. You see that it's moving quickly, and you see that it's under some kind of control. It's not wavering. It's going in a straight line.
Now, you and the producers of Ancient Aliens are show business savvy. No possibility this was special effects. Oh, no. No, this was actually released by the Department of Defense. They did have a congressional hearing about this. They showed the video at the congressional hearing. This was in September 2025. So I was just looking at it. The representative, Eric Burleson of Missouri, he was the one that demanded the answers as to what this was, because it was in a congressional hearing about UAPs. We will have to get a hold of the congressman. We have some questions to ask there. And why I assume this was secret. This was a secret hearing because we haven't heard a thing about it. I know. I hadn't either. But if it's secret, there was also another representative, Anna Luna. She was the one that put in the request. Yes. And her request was denied. Oh, really? So who was head of the hearing again? You said the name, but I forget it. What'd you say? Yeah, it was, I remember, Eric Burleson of Missouri. Eric Burleson. Well, we'll spend the week tracking down Eric Burleson. That's an amazing story. That's remarkable. Incredible. Robert Clotworthy, Ancient Aliens. Which episode will that be in? This is actually episode 7 of this new season. I looked it up on IMDb. 6 episodes have aired. So this should be the next one that comes up. Now, I'm not sure exactly when it's going to air, but this will be the first one as I understand it. This week, next week, right? Fingers crossed. I mean, episode 6 was a couple of weeks ago, so it should happen pretty soon, I would imagine. Listen, I was just trying to get over the fact that you do Ancient Aliens with a rehearsal in one take. That was impressive. But now that you've talked about this craft, we have to see that next week or the week after. You mentioned some other reveals in the show this season. Oh, yeah. Well, the same episode it's fascinating. This is the underwater show. And we tell a story about a Siberian lake. I'd never heard of this lake before. Lake Baikal. Mm-hmm. It happens to be not only the oldest lake in the world, it's also the deepest lake in the world, and it has 20% of the fresh water on the planet in it. At its deepest, it's over 5,000 feet deep. Apparently, it was a fissure in the Earth's crust that separated, and that's why it's so deep. And it's getting deeper because the separation is increasing. Now, apparently, this happened back in the mid-'80s, where the Russians had some Russian Navy divers doing maneuvers in this lake, and they go down and they see what appear to be these humanoid creatures, about 3 meters tall, underwater in silver suits, and they have no breathing apparatus. They come back. The divers come back to the surface. They run it up the chain of command. The chain of command says, "Go back and get one of those guys. Whoa. We want to know what it is." Whoa, so they go back into the water. They're down a couple of 100 feet, and they see, some of them say they actually see some kind of a craft underneath these creatures. They're in silver suits. And as they're getting closer to these guys, a shock wave hits them. And they have to go back to the surface, and a few of them, since they had to go so rapidly back to the surface, they actually died because they got the bends. Right. So what was happening underwater? We don't know. But again, we're exploring that on this episode. To make a professional diver dive up that fast, knowing he'd probably get the bends, whatever they saw must have been terrifying down in that lake. Must have been horrifying. These just weren't professional divers.
These would be the Russian version of Navy SEALs.
Whoa.
They were their best divers.
Right. It must have been terrifying. Unbelievable. Now, the other divers, did any of them make it up? Did any of them get up? Do you know?
Yeah, quite a few of them did. Not all of them died. You know, some of them did make it.
Well, I wonder what they revealed.
Well, we might explore a little bit of that in the episode. I'm not sure. We'll see.
No, we're looking forward to that. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Robert Clotworthy, any other news about the upcoming season of Ancient Aliens?
We're right in the middle of production. We've done about 7 or 8 episodes. We've got, I think, another 10 or 12 to do for this season. I know we're going to be going to Africa, which is going to be fascinating. That's a continent we haven't really explored on the show very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing that script and seeing what it's all about, because it's going to be fascinating, I'm sure. But we
Robert Clotworthy,
and they're already talking about a season 19.
Which brings me to the next point. When you get up to season 19 and you are the driving voice of a hit television show, I hope those are good Christmases from the History Channel. I mean, I hope those are beyond gift baskets.
I tell you, I've never even been sent a coffee cup, so it's okay. I'll take the job over the over the swag any day. It's good.
Well, we respect you. You have fans. You're the only announcer I know of who has fans that show up at the con festivals for science fiction. What's the name of the cons for your show?
Oh, Alien Con.
Sorry, stupid, of course. Alien Con. But there are no other announcers that show up for any TV show that are asked to, but there you are. A draw, a line, the announcer for Alien Con. That's a big deal, Robert. You should be proud of that. It kind of tickles me. It's kind of funny. I would imagine it's kind of what Rod Serling experienced during the shows of Twilight Zone, where he was really a character on the show. He was part of it. And that's kind of what I try to do. When you do narration, for me, I try to I'm a part of the show. I'm a character in the show, which means that I am part of the cast. I'm not just an observer just spitting out lines. No, I'm intimately involved. Absolutely. And you narrate that way. It's as though you're sitting there with us, watching the show with us, and explaining what's going on. Best narrator in American television. Robert Clotworthy, thank you very much for being on the Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Thank you so much. Thank you, Walter. You bet. It's, let's see, look at that. Look at that. Hey, Tony, Bill, look at that. I timed the thing correctly. Is that a thing of beauty? I don't hear any of these other hosts do anything like this. You and I can talk at 800-848-9222. It's a live line on the Red Apple Audio Network's 800-848-9222. And coming up, Ross Coulthart from News Nation will have an update on the Major General that disappeared 10 days ago. The Major General that was walking around in his brain with the most dangerous thing he could have, all of the secrets of the military about UFOs, UAPs, extraterrestrials, aliens, where they're hidden. This guy had them all. And then he went for a walk, 10, 12 days ago, and he disappeared. He left without his cell phone. Have you ever done that? Left without his watch. Have you ever done that? But he left with his service revolver. Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight in just seconds.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
It's Ross Coulthart, world-class journalist, for News Nation, a serious organization, but then there's us, Ross, you and me. And he has the updates on all things UFOs and conspiracies. I love the conspiracies, Ross. Good evening. What do you have for us tonight?
G'day, Walter. Well, you and I have been discussing this missing general, Neil McCaslin, for much of the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And the new news is no news. It's now 3 weeks and the general is still missing. But his disappearance is now being seen in a very interesting context because there is now more evidence of other disappearances. There's a young woman who was working very closely with McCaslin who disappeared a year ago in June 2025, a woman called Monica Jacinta Reza, and she disappeared in the Angeles forest northwest of Los Angeles. And the interesting thing is, northeast of Los Angeles, and what she's basically been involved in is the development of all manner of alloys and rocket engines, and it sparked a lot of speculation. We discussed this a little bit last time we spoke, and what's just happened in the last few days is the government, the President's Executive Office, have registered the domains alien.gov and aliens.gov. And it's beginning to fuel speculation that there might be something to the announcement by President Trump in February that he's going to declassify any evidence relating to UAPs, UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrial life, recovered technology. And it's fueled speculation that McCaslin's disappearance might be linked to this announcement. Now, a lot of people, as soon as the story came out that the government had quietly registered these official .gov domains, alien.gov and aliens.gov, don't bother going to the sites yet because even though they're registered, they're no longer active websites. They haven't had content placed on them yet. What's interesting, though, is that a press secretary for the president, when she was asked by Defence Scoop, which is an online webzine, what this is all about, she sent back a message saying, "Stay tuned." And then she put, Walter, an alien emoji, an emoji of an alien face. And that has now fueled, I think, speculation, even amongst sober commentators in the legacy dullard media that has its head firmly in the sand, that President Trump might be looking for the ultimate distraction as things go very bad in the Middle East. Maybe, just maybe, the registration by his staff of alien.gov and aliens.gov is a move by the president to make an announcement about the existence of extraterrestrial life. And I don't think anymore it's an idle speculation. There is some serious basis now for suggesting that the president might indeed be contemplating making an announcement.
Why now? Why would he do it now? Besides the some of the obvious concerns, but why would he do it now?
I think the largest explanation is one that keeps on coming up perennially in UAP research. There's been a lot of commentators, people from the inside, Lou Elizondo among them, the former head of the Pentagon's UFO investigations. And he keeps on hinting darkly at things that he can't disclose, which he says are going to happen in or after 2027, or possibly even later this year. And there's been any amount of speculation about what this might mean, but I'm told it may very well be that the government realises the game is up, that after 80 years of cover-ups over the existence of a non-human intelligence, alien life engaging with this planet, they've realised they have to tell the truth, that it's time to come clean with the American public, because maybe, just maybe, as incredible as this may sound, the non-human intelligences are forcing their hand. Maybe in 2027 or earlier, there's going to be some kind of a show. And it's really interesting because there's any amount of weird data points on this. There's a guy in South Carolina called Chris Bledsoe, who's long been a darling of people from NASA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the CIA, who have attested to his psychical abilities, a guy called Chris Bledsoe.
Right.
And Chris has been predicting for years now that there's going to be some kind of event that takes place. He first said it was going to happen in Easter of this year, 2026. Now he's moderated what he's saying to August of 2026. But there's some suggestion that there might be a public display by non-human intelligences. And interestingly enough, one of the things that he predicted, Walter, was that there was going to be a lot of weird, anomalous activity over different countries. Sort of, I think he described comets and things doing weird loop-de-loops in the sky.
Right.
And it's happening. I mean, believe it or not, all over the world, including here in Australia where I live, but also across the United States, there have been weird, anomalous things that looked like comets, but as people described in Texas when they saw it, this comet did a loop-de-loop, and it was filmed on video and posted on local TV. And so there is the beginning of speculation that there might be something to these stories. And maybe the government, the Pentagon and the intelligence community know the game is up.
2 mornings ago, I was at my in-laws in Ohio, and the loudest sound I could ever imagine greeted us at 8 in the morning, and a flash in the sky. And I thought it was the sound of a giant dresser in the attic falling over. It was that loud, and the house shook. And then, sure enough, a few hours later, it was revealed it was a comet. The comet shook all of northeastern Ohio and landed in Lake Erie. That's where it landed. It was bright, it was loud, and I had never witnessed or been anywhere near a comet coming down before. It was remarkable. The other thing that was remarkable to me about it, Ross Coulthart, is I thought we have anti-aircraft, anti-ballistic missile, a shield around the United States of America. How did that thing get through? It was allegedly like 7 miles long, something like that.
It was, I know the piece you're talking about. It was a 17,000-pound piece of debris that broke apart above Lake Erie. And there were about 140 people who reported it. And it happened at about 9 o'clock in the morning, caused numerous houses and windows to shake. But It was 7 tons, 6 foot in diameter. And yes, you may ask that question. We don't actually have the kind of anti-ballistic missile technology that a lot of people have been led to believe. And the thing about these meteors, a 7 ton, 6 foot diameter meteor, I have to say, is pretty commonplace these days. Mm-hmm. These happen relatively often. And what's interesting, though, is that these have been predicted. Chris Bledsoe has predicted this meteor activity, and other people are saying that we're going to see an increase in anomalous activity. And it's interesting because one of the things that's starting to happen again, Walter, believe it or not, is the drones are back. The mysterious objects that the government explained away over New Jersey and much of the East Coast for much of 2024 into 2025 and this year, they've suddenly started showing themselves again over parts of New Jersey, New York, Florida. And I'm getting a lot of videos from people who are describing to me this anomalous phenomena. And I don't know what to make of it. I mean, ultimately, all I'm doing is speculating. But I'll leave you with what Chris Bledsoe predicted. He says he was told by the White Lady, a woman who appeared to him as a transparent white shape of a lady, when the red star and Regulus are on the horizon in front of the gaze of the Sphinx before daylight, a new knowledge will come to humanity.
Walter, M. Sterling. That was Ross Coulthart. Ross, thank you so much. News Nation, Ross Coulthart, live from Sydney, Australia. He's from Sydney, Australia, gives us updates. Ross will be on a regular basis on Another Side of Midnight every Saturday, every Sunday. These are amazing facts. Ross is a journalist, an award-winning journalist, and every time he talks, first of all, I feel as though my voice is inadequate, but I'm grateful to him. All right, 800-838-9222, 800-83... No, it isn't. 800-838-9222. Yes, my brain. It's 234 with Walter Sterling on Another Side of Midnight. We're on great radio stations like WGN in Chicago, but you don't say it like that, WGN in Chicagoland. Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222. Coming up, you and I are going to talk about the most difficult event in our annual calendar, in our family calendar. It's astonishing how many of us it stumps. It's astonishing how often it can possibly fail. We don't want it to fail, but this is the doozy. You ready? The birthday parties for kids under the age of 14. When you and I, as adults, are faced with birthday parties under the kids of 14, for them, there's one vision that pops in our heads every time. It's the vision that we fear most. Chuck E. Cheese. I have bribed people to not go to Chuck E. Cheese. I have offered my children unbelievable things. Listen, we can do whatever you want. We're just not going to go to Chuck E. Cheese. There is no more hostile environment for adults. All right, Mateus Boom Boom Hollywood. Do we have Mateus? All right, Mateus Boom Boom in Hollywood. Well, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? What? Say it to me again. Oh, okay. Very good. Well, then I get to talk to you. By the way, just so you know, it's not that I'm deaf. I'm talking to my friends in the control room. It's not that I'm deaf. It's that you can't believe how low the volume is. I'm sure that's it. But just now when you talked to me, I heard you very clearly. No problem. Anyway, tonight you and I are going to talk to a mom who suffered through enough birthday parties that she came up with a creative solution. And you and I will talk about that. And then I want to share with you a personal crisis that I've had to deal with. It'll sound like nothing, but oh my gosh. When you and I stay at someone else's apartment or someone else's home as a guest, they invite us to our house as a guest. Stay at our home. Oh, you're staying here for the weekend? You're coming here for the weekend? Great. Hang out with us. Spend, how many nights do you need? 4 or 5? Okay, I'm going to stay there for 5 nights, right? It is my assumption, and I want to know how you feel. It is my assumption that I have the right, that I have the obligation to eat your food. If I'm staying in your house as your guest, I can eat your food, right? When you come to my house with my wife and kids, I think they're mine, and I say, stay here a couple nights, I assume you're going to eat my food. Wouldn't think twice about it. I also assume that if you want to use my washer and dryer, you can use my washer and dryer. And that's assumed. I've been to people's houses, people's apartments, and done nothing extraordinary. I used the washer and dryer. And then a little while later, through the family smoke signals, I got this message. Oh, next time, tell Walter to just put his wash in with ours, and we'll wash it with ours, and we'll dry it with ours. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to put my wash in with your wash. That's not my goal. I have sanitary issues. I'm a little concerned about you, Uncle Charlie there. I don't want to put my wash in there. But the big one is a couple days ago, I had spent time with my sister-in-law at her apartment, and my brother-in-law at his apartment. And I wasn't there with them. They weren't home. And there was some yogurt in the refrigerator. And I had a container or two of yogurt. And then up there in the cabinet, there was candy. And I'm not talking bags of candy. I'm talking like, maybe one of those lint things and a little Halloween bag of M&Ms. And that was it. There wasn't any more to it than that. That was it. And I get through the smoke signals. Listen, you can stay in their apartment again, but don't eat any of their food. And I looked at my wife. I said, I didn't eat any of their food. And then I thought, yeah, I had 2 yogurts, which I replaced. And I replaced plus a dozen eggs and milk. I left milk, a dozen eggs, and the remaining yogurt. I replaced the yogurt. And I said, that's all I ate. A little while later, I thought about it, and I said, oh, yeah, and I ate some of the candy. I ate some of your sister's candy. Then the problem was revealed. And the problem was, it wasn't her sister's candy. It was the brother-in-law's candy. The brother-in-law's candy. Now, this guy keeps a log. If he could, he would keep a log on how many minutes the air conditioner ran, how many minutes the lights ran, and give you a bill after you visit their apartment. Did I mention that they're millionaires? That the apartment that they have is their pied-à-terre. The apartment they have is their pied-à-terre. They have an estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, with a pond. Now, the separator between wealthy and rich in a place like Greenwich, Connecticut, is everybody has a pool. You're supposed to have a pool. But some have a pond. Not only do my brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a pond, they have to get it dredged. It's real money to get it dredged. Now, what do you believe? When you stay at someone else's house, do you believe that you have the right to eat their food? Now, I'm not talking a lobster or filet mignon. I might say, gee, can I eat the filet mignon or the lobster? But if it's day-to-day food, if it's yogurt and some carrots and some milk, if I'm your house guest, I believe I have the right to eat the food, because I know that if you stayed in my house, I would expect you to eat the food. I'm right about this. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. There's Mateus in Hollywood. Hello, Mateus. Welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi. Hello, my friend.
How are you?
Well, I was a little annoyed. I said, at 35, and then they said you'd call back. What was that about?
Well, you told me 45, so I was going to call it 40, and so that's when I was expecting, So here we are, and I'm eager to chat with you.
So it was my mistake.
I didn't want to say it that way, but that is the accurate description.
You don't have anything on, do you? You don't have a radio on or anything?
No.
Okay, good. Mateus Boom Boom in Hollywood is a world-class movie reviewer and a savant about popular culture and gossip. And he's in California with all of the California people. And it's an explosive week for California people, isn't it? Because you had the Oscars. You probably had some other secret awards we don't even know about, it, that unless you live in Hollywood, you're not going to even be told about them. Is that right?
Yes, it's true. And, of course, we're a little sad about Chuck Norris leaving us, big star from the 70s and even into the 90s on television. So we're bummed about that.
That is sad, but it didn't say what he died from. Do you know what he died from?
No, we still don't know. The family says that he just died suddenly. And, of course, he was living in Hawaii at the time, up until the time he wasn't living, of course. And his family made a statement earlier today saying that he may have been the tough guy to the world, but he was really sweet for all of us in the family over the years.
Everybody who talked about him in death, his kids, his family, people who worked with him, I believed every word they said. Usually there's gratuitous comments by people who vaguely know him, but they really dug in. They loved this man. This was highly respected. And to me, he had the ultimate life prize. He was clearly a good dad. Those kids loved him.
Indeed. And that's a very special relationship you can admire in any personality that steps up to the plate.
Because so often, especially in Hollywood, when people talk about the dead, they get very vague.
Yes, that is a recurring issue, you bet.
Yeah, they get very vague. I'll never forget, this has haunted me. This has haunted me. On Law and Order, there was Jerry Orbach. Mm-hmm. And who was the one of the lawyers, one of the original lawyers on Law and Order, one of the first ones?
No, you've got me. I'm not a TV guy, so I remember Burke's Law. That's going back a little earlier, but
nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers Burke's Law. I don't even know why you would mention anything like that. Well, anyway, so Jerry Orbach died, and the co-star of that show gets up at the funeral, and he says, this is all he said. He said, well, Jerry lived his life a certain way, and I guess that worked for him. And then he sat down. Jerry lived his life a certain way, and I guess that worked for him. And I'm like, what? What? And he sat down.
Well, it's just the way people play my way at every funeral to try to excuse all of the actions of their dearly departed.
Exactly. All right. Mr. Mateus Boom Boom in Hollywood, do you have an update for us on the films of the weekend and the film industry?
Yes, I've got two movies that are out. We can talk about one that sort of ties in with what we've been talking about before, and even earlier before your show with Dr. Sky. And this is a movie based in outer space. It's called Project Hail Mary. It's down in Lower Manhattan at the Alamo Drafthouse at 28 Liberty Street. And it's from Amazon MGM Studios. It's based on a novel by Andy Weir, who's done a lot of science fiction writing. It's a story of a school teacher who's played by Ryan Gosling, who wakes up aboard a spaceship with memory loss and finds that his fellow crew members did not survive their suspended animation. So he's alone in space, his memories returning to him gradually, Walter, and he realizes that he was part of a team to solve an issue of mysterious substance that was causing the sun to die. Now, the story of how he got there is presented in several flashbacks, light years from home and alone. He tries to use everything at his disposal to try to save the Earth, but he has an unexpected visitor, Walter. It's an alien on a similar mission and an almost unlikely friendship for him. So at 2 hours and 36 minutes, directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, they've done the Spider-Man movies, they've done the Lego movie, which is actually quite funny, have made an overlong movie. They could have been much shorter. But I really found, Walter, that the story and the performances of Gosling were really engaging. And at last, a hopeful movie about the future, positive and affirming, not one of these movies that says the future is going to be this dystopian nightmare and everything's horrible. It was really a feel-good movie, and I feel, we got a lot going on right now in the world. It's kind of neat to see a feel-good movie. So this is the name of the movie, is the Project Hail Mary. Sandra Hüller, the German actress, also stars in it, and Gosling does a fairly decent performance. He's obviously a very handsome guy who has access to things we'll never have access to because we'll never be that good looking. But at the same time, his performance was actually very sensitive and very good. So he went beyond his exterior to prove that he actually had some chops there in making you feel things. And that works in the movies, I think. I mean, he's been at it since he was a little kid, of course, but I think he's really coming into his own, and this is a really good picture. I think it'll be a big box office hit this weekend, Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary. Sam Waterston was the star of Law and Order, who stood up there at Jerry Orbach's funeral and said, well, he lived his life a certain way, and I guess that worked for him. Could you imagine Sam Waterston with that presence saying that at your funeral? I mean, just man. You and I can't even imagine that.
No, that's something else.
What's the other movie?
Well, the other movie is a movie called Reminders of Him, which is a convoluted mess, but it seems it was the biggest movie last week. I call it a convoluted mess because it's basically a dime store romance kind of story. It's from Universal Pictures. It's a dramatic romance based on the novel of the same name. Oh, the name of the movie is Reminders of Him. The novel of the same name by Colleen Hoover, in which Micah Monroe, you may remember her from Independence Day Resurgence back in 2016, stars as Kenna, a woman who's charged with manslaughter of her boyfriend while driving under the influence. And after serving time, she returns to the small town where it all happened, hoping for the chance to see her daughter, which was taken from her at birth, to be raised by her boyfriend's parents. Now, they're played by Bradley Whitford and Lauren Graham. We all loved Lauren Graham and the Gilmore Girls. Anyway, she took custody of their granddaughter while Kenna was incarcerated. The couple's never forgiven the daughter for the loss of their son and refused to let her see her daughter. See, the drama's just adding and adding and adding. Tyreek Withers plays Ledger, who is an NFL player sidelined by an injury, operating a bar wherein she stops after returning to town to look for work. But destiny draws them together, she not knowing that he was her boyfriend's best pal and who has been a surrogate father for her daughter. So the story starts to thicken with romance between Ledger and Kenner, who now share a secret that could unravel all of their lives. Again, pure dime romance novel stuff, nicely made with good performances, especially from young Micah Monroe, who's really fresh and fun-looking. Reminders of Him spins an tangled web of loss and redemption. Sounds like a publicity line, but it's the only thing I could come up with to describe the convoluted nature of these romance things that I think appeal to young teenage girls and women. But, it was a solid thing for what it was. It was not a horrible movie, but, it's not my cup of tea.
Well, I'm trying to think of Laura Graham in prison garb. I can't get past that.
No, she's the mother. She's the mother.
Oh, she's
she
the
was
mother.
not. She was the mother of the boyfriend of the girl that was responsible for the boyfriend's death. So
right. Way
she's
too
the
confusing.
Mother.
Way too confusing.
It's completely convoluted. But I warned you at the outset that it was convoluted. So now I reassure you, it's truly convoluted.
That's true. You did warn me. How do we find you online?
Walter, you can find me at Matthias Bombal's Hollywood on Facebook. That's MATIAS BOMBAL''S Hollywood on Facebook. That's just where you can find me. I'd love to see you there.
All right, Matthias, thank you so much for being on Another Side of Midnight. Walter Sterling, 50 minutes past the hour, Red Apple Audio Networks.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right, it's 7 minutes before the hour with Walter Sterling. Good evening. It's Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Networks. I'm sitting there with my current wife, and she says, all right, you can spend a couple nights in my sister's apartment, but don't eat the food. I'm like, what? And I said to her, I didn't eat any food the last time I was there. And then, yeah, I did eat. I had some yogurt. I didn't have any lobster or steak or anything. I had the yogurt. But I replaced the yogurt. And I said, I didn't eat anything, but whatever I did, I replaced. And she said, okay. And then a few minutes later, I realized that I, in fact, had eaten some candy. And I said to her, well, but I ate some of your sister's candy. I can't explain it, but it looked like a girl's candy. It looked like a girl's candy. And I ate some candy, and she goes, oh, that wasn't my sister's. That was Fred's. Like, what? It was my brother-in-law's candy. Now, they weren't home. And I replaced the few things I ate in the refrigerator, and I was there like for 3 or 4 days. And I ate some M&Ms. You won't believe it. I ate some M&Ms, and I ate some Lindt chocolates. This was scandalous. But I'm of the impression that if I'm a guest in your house, I can eat the food. That's part of being a guest. If you stayed at my house, you could eat the food. That's part of being a guest. I'm sure about this. and I need to stay at their apartment again pretty soon. And my wife said, don't eat any of the food. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Every time I need a snack or need a sandwich or milk, I'm supposed to go to the store? When you're spending the time at someone else's apartment for 2 or 3 nights, you're not going to load up on groceries. What's going to happen then? You're going to get half a gallon of milk, and it's going to sit in there. You're going to use it once for your coffee, and then that's it, or for a bowl of cereal. I've always believed that if I stay at your house, if I stay at your apartment, that I can eat your food. And if you stay at my home, you can eat my food. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. How do you feel about this? Because I would like to carry back evidence to my family that Walter Sterling is right. Because there is no greater gift, is there, than the joy of being right. There was a study done by Columbia University, a serious organization if there ever was one, that it was legit, that asked like 3,000 women, what would you rather do? Would you rather be right or go to jail? Would you rather be right or go to jail? They asked 3,000 women this. 88% of the women said they'd rather go to jail. And I thought this was like, what is that, an Onion survey? What are you kidding me? And no, it was a real survey of thousands of women. What would you rather have? What would you rather do? Would you rather admit that you're wrong or go to jail? That was the survey. Would you rather admit that you are wrong or go to jail? And 88% of the women that they surveyed said, we'd rather go to jail. I wouldn't have believed that until I was married. And since I've been married a while, I'm like, yeah, that's probably actually true, that most women would rather go to jail than admit that they are wrong. But there's my situation, and maybe you have a vote. What's your vote? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I believe that if I stay in your home, if I stay with you, that I can eat your food. And if you stay with me, you can eat my food. That's called being a house guest. That means the whole house, the entire house, is my domain when I get to stay in your house. It seems only polite, but instead, my millionaire sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they don't want to have anything to do with that. No, you have to bring your own food. You have to go shop for your own food and put it in the refrigerator. But it's crazy talk. And then I had the same thing with a very different house, a very different home, where they got annoyed that I did my wash in the washing machine and the dryer. I thought they'd be happy that I did it myself and didn't say, would you like to do this for me? Could you do this for me? I didn't expect them to give me maid service. I just expected them to not care if I used their washer and dryer. Oh, no. They would have much rather had me do it with their laundry. They wanted me to do it with their laundry, and then they would dry it and take it out and pass it around when they were done. I don't want to do my laundry with your laundry. To me, that's tacky. Doing my own laundry and doing my own wash, that seems like the right thing to do. I don't want to give you a burden. I'm grateful for the fact that I got to stay in your home. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Coming up, one of the other domestic challenges that you and I have, kids' birthday parties, or in your case, great-great-grandfather birthday parties. There's no greater hell than having 8-9-year-olds and having to take care of their birthday needs. It's much harder than it sounds. It is much harder than it sounds. And we'll review that coming up in just seconds on the Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight.
is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
I say that when I stay at somebody's house or when they stay at my house for a couple nights, it's my job to feed them and let them eat whatever they want, and it's my opportunity to eat whatever they have. Seems simple to me. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Charlie, welcome to the Red Apple Audio Networks. Hi.
Hi, thanks, Walter, for taking my call. I think you're completely right in this, especially since, you replaced the stuff you took out of the refrigerator. The candy?
That was a big issue. Charlie, that caused a lot of trouble to candy.
I'm not supposed to, I'm not sure if I can use the word, but it starts with a D. CHE is at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. It's like, are you kidding me, man?
No, I got in a lot of trouble for eating some of the candy and for eating some of the food in the refrigerator, which I did replace.
I don't even know what an au pair blah 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 in Greenwich Village is. I don't even know what you're talking about. Is that like a pool house?
No, it's an apartment that you have that you don't live in as your primary residence. It's a place to have in the city, so you can spend a night there or two when you go to Broadway.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, okay.
That's what I'm dealing with here, Charlie. And they offered to let my daughters stay there during the summer with summer internships, but he wanted to charge them electricity. I'm not kidding.
Oh, all right. Okay.
You understand my challenge at Christmas, Charlie?
Yeah,
understand?
All right. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling.
So when you have to go back there, just
this
bring
next
a
weekend.
Foreman grill.
Next weekend. Yeah. Thank you very much for calling. 800-848-9222. Passport Mommy. Michelle Jerson is an expert, well, as much of any as can be experts on different advice, different points of view about dealing with the kids. And one of the toughest challenges is if you and I have a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, that is a tough time to have to arrange for a kid's birthday party. Michelle, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi. Passport Mommy, Michelle Jerson. Oh, my gosh. A great talent, great broadcaster, and a mom, a real New York City mom, raising her kids in an apartment. If you grow up in Illinois, there's no such thing as a large New York apartment. Doesn't matter what size your apartment is. To the rest of the world, it's small.
That's
Michelle
right.
Jerson runs a blog to help other moms. Useful, practical, common sense mom stuff. There's no greater horror for most parents than the birthday party for people under 15. You have to organize a birthday party for people under 15. You have lost day run. I actually knew a set of parents that gave their kids a birthday party every other year. I thought that was the cruelest thing I ever heard in my life. But then I started to hear about other scenarios, and I'd like you to share with us, Michelle, your latest birthday party episode, starting with how old are your kids?
Sure. So my daughter just turned 9 this past weekend, and my son is 6, almost 7. And every year for the last few years, I've tried to convince them not to have a birthday party. And I've said, let's go do something fun. We'll go do an experience. But it doesn't fly. So this year started with my daughter going to invite maybe 1 or 2 friends over. And then it turns into a whole weekend, including a sleepover at a hotel in Times Square.
I've done the hotel sleepover with 2 of my kids. It was a spectacular success. I'm going to be quiet. I just want you to talk and tell us this story.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I agree with you. It was a success, but other parents were very hesitant when I put it out there. So I'll tell you. So we started off the weekend at the Great Big Game Show, which is in Times Square. It's a really fun thing. So they allow up to 14 kids. So, of course, she wanted to have friends. So the 2 to 3 friends expanded to maybe 10 friends plus family. Then after that, we went to a pizza place, John's Pizza, also in Times Square for dinner. Then mostly everyone went home, and she went with one of her friends to a hotel in Times Square where we stayed, the Hyatt Regency. And, you know, I invited 3 of her close friends. One couldn't make it. The other one, the mom was like, at the beginning when I sent it out, 2 moms said, I don't feel comfortable. They both blamed it on their husbands, that they didn't want the daughter to go stay at a hotel in Times Square. And then I go to the gym with one of the moms. So we were talking about it one morning, and I was explaining my rationale. And I was like, well, listen, you know, our apartment's pretty small. She really, really wants a sleepover. And I thought this would be a really fun staycation for the girls, and I'll be with them the whole time. My husband's not going to be there. And so after that, she agreed. And so the girls had the best time, but I felt so badly because then the one girl had to say goodbye, and she knew that she had been invited and she wasn't allowed to go. And so then the next morning when they woke up, they basically were on the iPad with this third girl the entire time while they did all their activities all morning to make her feel like she was included.
Then what happened?
So it was a fun time. So we got a really nice room. We had a corner room with a beautiful view. So the 2 9-year-olds basically did cartwheels throughout the room all night. Then they were excited. The one girl was so excited that she had slippers and a robe. And then in the morning, we went for breakfast. They have a great restaurant there, so we grabbed breakfast. Then, of course, I was like, okay, what am I going to do for a few hours? So we went down to the gym, and there was a great yoga studio that the 2 of them could hang out in and do cartwheels some more while I worked out. And then we went to lunch at their restaurant, which was also amazing. And then she went home at about 2 o'clock. And then I took my daughter to Dave & Buster's and then to Ellen's Stardust Diner, which is like, I haven't been there since I was a kid. So it was quite a weekend.
You would recommend taking kids to a hotel for a birthday party?
I know it sounds weird, but as you said, you've done it, and I thought it was great. And these are memories that she's going to have, hopefully, for years to come. And, look, obviously, if the roles were reversed and somebody invited my daughter to a hotel for a birthday party, I would need to know the parents really well and need to know what's going to go on there.
All I would need to know was is the mom going to be, you did it the right way, is mom going to be there without dad? Yes.
Right.
That's all I'd need to know.
Exactly.
And then I'd have no concern. And the one we did, it was just mom, ironically in a Times Square hotel. And then another one we did near Grandma's, which was in Shaker Heights, Ohio, with the 14-year-old's friends. They went to a hotel with mom, and they had a great time because they get to do the things they really want to do. They watch TV. They didn't have a sibling bother them, and they could order room service.
No, exactly. See, that's the one thing we didn't do, but you're absolutely right.
No,
and
that was
fun.
The best thing. First of all, think about it. It cuts down on any lost children. You're in that room,
right.
The food's brought to you. That's number one. Number two, it's still cheaper than Chuck E. Cheese.
That is true. I know. Somehow we got sucked into still doing other things after this hotel. But you're right.
And in both cases, and maybe in yours, my kids came up with those ideas. I didn't come up with the hotel idea. They wanted to go. And and it's, to a large degree, it solves the small apartment problem, but it is in fact a treat. So my friend who has a large apartment and money took them to the Times Square Hotel also, which is where I got the idea from.
Okay.
And she said, and I'm looking at her like, I'm looking at her like it's nice to have money, but she volunteered it. She said, and I did it all on points. Like,
yes.
Of course you did it all on points. So it was the cheapest birthday party she ever gave and had the best result.
Exactly. There are ways of doing it. You can appear to, let people think you're rich, but you know what? There are ways.
14-year-old this year, out of nowhere, said, I want to go bowling. And I'm like, now, this will sound funny because it is actually funny. Most of her friends are autistic.
Okay, right.
And to go to a bowling alley with autistic children is pretty much a random event. Like, really? You understand this one and this one, and this one might not understand anything they see. And she said, I know, but I really want to go bowling. Okay. They all had a great time. And then I learned something else about bowling I'll pass along, and I appreciate your time tonight. Michelle Jerson, Passport Mommy blog. The other thing I learned about taking kids bowling, the bowling alleys are not all like the ones you and I imagine. There are, in fact, 8 and 10 and 12 lane bowling alleys. You just have to look for them and shop for them. You can find smallish bowling alleys where you can keep your eye on all the kids all the time. It's not an overwhelming view. And that's what we had. I think there were 6 bowling alleys there. And they got a pizza and a cake, and they couldn't have been happier.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Are those called duckpin bowling alleys, or is just a smaller version of a bowling alley?
Duckpin bowling is different and confined to Boston.
Oh, really? There was one in Connecticut that we did one time.
That's the same as Boston.
Okay.
Michelle Jerson, how do we find you online?
You could find me at passportmommy.com. That's where the website is. There's also a podcast, which it's on any of your podcasting platforms, Passport Mommy.
Michelle Jerson, thank you for being on another side of midnight on the Red Apple Audio Networks. It's 800-848-9222 with Walter Sterling. Ed in Evansville, Ed. I'm right that if I stay at somebody's house, I should be able to eat all their food.
Well, we were always taught that if you're going over to a friend's house or a family member's house, you always brought something, so to speak, quote unquote, to the party, whether it be food or flowers or something to be respectful to the women folk or mom. You bring something, and even if you were destitute and had nothing, you'd always bring something, and it wasn't novelty, and it wasn't grandeur. It was just something we did out of respect and out of love and friendship, and that it was unstated, but it was something we learned along our lives, and you just don't show up empty-handed, and even if you ate it all, you'd come up.
Ed. Yeah. Thank you for calling. This wasn't going over for dinner, because I totally agree with you, Ed. This wasn't going over for dinner. This was I spending a couple nights in their home. I'm their house guest, 3 or 4 nights. And if you came to my house as a house guest for 3 or 4 nights, I would expect you to be able to eat all the food I had because you're my house guest. And if I come to your house, I'd expect the same thing. I'm just right. My number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
22 past the hour, all-night radio, the biggest all-night show in American radio. Walter Sterling, Another Side of Midnight. Pete in Staten Island, welcome to Another Side of Midnight, trying to deal with the big dilemma I say that when I spend a night or 2 or 3 at your house, I should be able to eat your food. And if you spend a night or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you should be able to eat my food. That is called a house guest. Isn't that the way it goes in Staten Island, Pete?
That's the way it goes in Staten Island. Now, when people come to my house, I tell them, come, stay, enjoy, and it's my treat. You don't bring nothing. And if they bring something, they bring something. But when I go to somebody else's house, I try to do the same thing. I'll go, if I'm going to stay there a while, I might pick up some steaks or something. And, when I know people are going to be there because I love to eat. And when you go out to restaurants, it's a great expense. It's best off to cook at home, And
Yes.
That's it, 100%. But when you go and somebody says, for electric, and that's nonsense. That's petty. I know the deal about New York because I used to get an apartment on 54th Street that I would get, and I, like in between working in the theater, I would crash over there, and that was all fine. But when I used to go out to my sister's house in Long Beach Island, I would go out. I'd always bring steaks, and one day I brought steaks, and somebody on the other side of their family came and stayed there for a weekend, and they ate up all the steaks. So my brother-in-law said, geez, you always bring steak out. You went in the fridge. You went in the freezer. There was nothing. I said, wow, did anybody come by? Oh, yeah, my sister-in-law. I go, well, you better ask her about where the steaks went because I left about 4 or 5 steaks in the refrigerator.
Well, let me ask you something more important. Where on Long Beach Island do they have a home?
Well, they were actually on the road going down Beach Haven, and my nephew still to this day has a delicatessen, Bruno's, which everybody knows off of 71.
No. Where did they live? Where did they live?
Well, they had a house in Staten Island, and they had a house in Beach Haven, which was down. Greg Place. Yes, that's where they were.
What? Say that again. What'd she say?
Greg Place. My wife said Greg Place. That's where they were.
Listen, Pete, you've been on the radio enough times. You need to talk into the phone. Just like talking to the phone. You're committing talk radio crimes. You can't commit these crimes. Listen, practice. I'll talk to you again next week. Thank you very much for the call, Pete. Thank you for the call. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. That's the phone number. You go on live and you talk to America. You whine about the media. Well, the media did this. Okay, well, you can be the media. Just call me. Like Frank in Jersey. Hi, Frank.
Yeah, no, I'm Frank from Astoria, Queens.
Now, I just want to be fair with you. It says something quite different. Did you mumble? Did you have a problem?
Yeah, I did. I said something that, I didn't specify where I was from.
Oh, my God.
They interpreted,
oh, my God. Well, at least you don't have the radio up. No. And at least you haven't committed to me the worst crime of all talk radio callers. You didn't thank me for taking your call. I will never understand why a caller thanks the host for taking their call. The host is paid to take their call. It is their job to take their call. They are thrilled when you call. I just want to put that on the professional table and make it clear. They are thrilled when you call. All right, now go ahead.
Okay, so before I go into the call, TJ resigned, did he not?
I will tell you the absolute truth. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Incredible.
Did you want to talk about anything else?
Yes, I've spoken to you before. Of great Philadelphian you are. I might as well ask you this question since it's on everyone's mind. Do you think that it's a good idea, the way things are going, the war in Iran and so on, that they decide to construct an ICE detention center in New Jersey because of the immigration and customs enforcement is overwhelmed with so many unlawful aliens running around. I mean, they've already done a good job. Why waste more of the government's money creating a center in New Jersey?
One, I'm not a Philadelphian. I was born in Newark. I spent most of my life at 19th Street and Irving Place, like most of my life. My 3 kids went to PS 40, walked them to public school every damn day because Mom said she would, and then she never did. And then she said she'd pick them up, and she never did. We're happily married, but we're only happily married because I always pick them up and I always drop them off. That is the price of a happy marriage. Thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it, Frank. The ICE situation, I have no idea because what he said was convoluted. Like, okay, so they're in the ICE center because the immigration is overwhelmed. That's not why they're there. That's not why they're there, because they broke the law. They're called illegal aliens. And Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton both said, we will deport every illegal alien. They said it as a campaign promise, and they said it as he said it as president, and she said it as Secretary of State. This is not a wacky idea to deport illegal aliens. Because why? Why? Because they're illegal. It's 30 minutes past the hour with Walter Sterling on another side of midnight on the Red Apple audio networks, and we're on great radio stations like WGN in Chicago. I am talking with you at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Now I want to talk to you for a second about Hattie Vagon. And it's very important for you to understand my compass on this, because it does not move. Like absolute north, true north, this is my compass. My grandmother is named Hattie Vagon, Hedwig Vagon, and she was born in Hamburg, Germany, maybe like yours. Maybe you have a relative from Hamburg. And she was born in Hamburg, Germany. And when she was 16, her sensing the trouble coming, her father loved her so much that when she was 16 and it broke his heart, he sent her to America to get her here, to get her to America. And she landed in Irvington, New Jersey, and she started to study to be a nurse. She wanted to be a nurse. First, though, she needed to make a living, so she was a nanny, helping another family. The family knew she was coming. The family knew she was coming. She arrived here. She immediately went to get her citizenship papers, her green card. I don't even know if they were green cards in the 1920s, but she started the process of becoming a United States citizen. This girl who was born in Germany came here without any knowledge of English. She, at night, learned English. She worked during the day as a nanny, and she trained to be a nurse. She didn't come here with a boyfriend. She didn't come here with money. She came here with hope and a dream and a desire to be an American. Hattie Vagon. Here's the important part. Every holiday, there'd be like a German Day parade. There'd be a parade that celebrated Germany. There'd be cultural events that were appropriate to my grandmother. And I'd say, you're going to go to that parade. Do you want to go to that parade? Do you want to see that play? Whatever it was. No, absolutely not. I'm an American, period. I'd ask her anything relative to life in Germany. It doesn't matter. I'm an American. Every now and then I made a mistake of showing her a German magazine or a German newspaper and saying, what does this say? Now remember, she was born in Germany. That was her native tongue. She knew German. And I'd show her the magazine that had German. And she'd say, what are you doing? I don't remember any of that. I don't remember that. Of course she remembered it. But she denied it because I'm an American. She became a registered nurse in New Jersey. But here's the story. When my grandmother spoke, she spoke without an accent. She did not have any accent. And she read English books, English publications. She was a nurse in an American hospital. She had no accent. The reason she had no accent, the reason Hetty Wagon, born in Germany, the reason that she had no accent is she refused to leave her apartment until she lost her accent. She refused to leave her apartment until she spoke English as her primary language with great pride. Could read every word you could read, could say anything you could say. She would not leave her apartment until she lost her accent. Because I'm an American. And that's how she lived her life. She was a registered nurse for about 35 years. She retired when she was 70. Now, by the time she was 70, my grandmother had, I think it was 7 or 8 grandchildren, all of whom would have been very happy to support her. We often said to her, you don't have to work anymore. We can all contribute to your rent. We'll pay your rent. We'll pay for whatever you need. We'd be happy to. We'd be proud to. Nonsense. I don't want to owe you guys anything. She wouldn't take money from her grandchildren. She wouldn't take money from anybody because she was an American. She went to work. And she could have retired at 60 or 65, but she didn't retire till she was 70. She worked full-time as a registered nurse until she was 70 because she wanted to. And here's the story, part of the story I might cry on because it gets me every time. At the hospital where she worked, when it was time for her retirement party, they let another hospital know that Hattie was getting a retirement party, and everybody in her hospital wanted to be at her retirement party. An entire crew from another hospital, doctors and nurses, covered for her. They all covered for her at her hospital because she had worked that long, that hard, was that beloved, and everybody at her hospital could attend her retirement party because she was an American. That's how this works. She came here with a dream, had set her goals as to what she wanted to do for a living, had arranged for her family to not take her in, but give her a job. Let me repeat that. They didn't take her in. They gave her a job. Do you have an experience like this? I'd love to hear yours. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I said to her, so, did you come over, did you go through Ellis Island? No. I came in second class. You didn't go through Ellis Island. That was a revelation right there. So her dad made sure she was safe and comfortable. But then she had a job. She had a job her entire life. She raised 3 beautiful daughters, including my mom, 7 adoring grandchildren, because she was an American. That's what we do. That's what we do. When I first started to work, and I needed a car, I wanted a car, here was the deal. My dad didn't give me a car, and he didn't give me a coupon book to pay the car, and he didn't pay for my insurance. He said, here's a car. Now, it was a car he had driven already for 10 years. He didn't owe anything on it. It was so ugly that the trunk, half of it was faded, that it was down to the undercoat on the trunk. That's how old it was. That's how run down it was. But it was free. It was free and clear, and that was the car he gave me. Oh, and the insurance, yeah, I had to work to pay for that. And the gas, yeah, I had to work to pay for that. These are not struggles. This is what we do as Americans. This is how we grow financially and we grow as people. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Tony, what do we have to do? No, I didn't hear you. I heard a syllable. I heard a syllable. I heard you. I heard a syllable. This is a good time for that, right? Let's do that. This is Michelle Gibson. She is a PhD and a researcher in alternative history. An amazing woman. Let's listen to Michelle. Red Apple Audio Networks, Walter Sterling with Michelle Gibson, journalist and alternative history researcher. What do you mean alternative history? Well, all we know for sure about our history is that it's his story. That's his story. We don't know if it's the whole story. And every time you and I explore it a little more with Michelle Gibson, we find out there are many pieces to all stories that are missing, significantly so. And it's great to have Michelle Gibson on tonight. Always a good response when you're on, Michelle, and I'm grateful for that. Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. What are you working on lately that fascinates you, that is intriguing you and making you go, this needs more work?
Well, actually, I am working my way down the southern shore of Lake Erie, as it happens to be. And I'm leaving the Ashtabula area and the Fairport Harbor area, and I'm getting ready to head into Cleveland on my study of the Great Lakes. So I've been doing in-depth research around the Great Lakes and heading towards the end of the series, but I've taken me at least a month for each one. And there's just a lot of information to be found.
That's interesting right there, Michelle. You didn't say Göbekli Tepe. You didn't say Peru. You didn't say Cairo. You said the Great Lakes headed toward Cleveland. What could possibly be headed toward the Midwest, Ohio, Pennsylvania? What are you looking for?
There's a ton of information that's just been hidden right in front of our eyes. And that's a byline that I have on my website, which is a blog, which is how I do my research. I blog, and then I make videos from my blogs. And you were talking about alternative history research. There's just so much that's been kept from our awareness. And like we've been given this fake narrative to explain everything in existence. But when you start looking closely at the narrative, it really does fall apart. And the Great Lakes hold a lot of secrets. And there's a lot of different angles I could take on that, but just the railroad history itself through that area. You still have the lake shoreline with Amtrak. It has very few passenger stops compared to what used to go through the area. The water level route of the New York Central Railroad years and years and years ago. The railroads have disappeared, and they were replaced by highways and cars and buses, and they took away the rail infrastructure that was everywhere. And so I've been pulling that out of the ether and putting it all in one place in my blog to show in place after place after place, there's this history that's missing. But in the process of doing this research, I'm focusing on waterfalls and lighthouses. And there's a lot of other things around that. But when you start looking into the connection between waterfalls and gorges and railroads, there's a pattern. And we don't know anything about that pattern because everything is natural. We don't know anything about an energy grid. And yet when you look at the history, the railroad history is there. And the main time of it was like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And then they started removing the infrastructure, literally, physically taking the tracks out, stopping the service, and used to have interurbans running between cities. But if you have interurbans, why do you need cars? You know, they had all that infrastructure was already there. And
in many cases, it's still there. Right now, there's a big push to put in a rail line from Scranton to New York City. That's a big push. The other big push in Ohio, as you mentioned, is to put in a rail line to go from Cleveland to Columbus to Cincinnati. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Those lines are either still sitting there and need to be cleaned, or why the heck do you take them out?
Right, exactly. And that's the big question. I mean, whether or not you are comfortable with the whole idea of a history that we haven't even been told about, question remains, why did they remove it in the first place? And like we talked about in our first talk a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the empty, abandoned subways in Cleveland. And
yes, abandoned subways in Cleveland. And since we talked, I have found out about abandoned subways in Cincinnati.
And they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's all this underground infrastructure that is just literally abandoned. But not only that, there is a lot of abandoned infrastructure on the surface. And so, like this morning, I was looking at Painesville, Ohio, and Painesville was a railroad hub, but it was also a manufacturing hub. And I guess it still is a little bit, but not like it was. And that's the case with a lot of places in the Rust Belt. Even got a name, the Rust Belt.
There you go. Michelle Gibson, were you in Painesville this morning?
No, I was in Painesville on my computer.
Got it.
Looking at the history. And there was a rayon factory there, industrial rayon factory. And we had ceased operations in like 1980, sometime around there. And then it's just abandoned. The property's abandoned. And there was a lot of chemical use there. So you've got all of these places that have this industrial history with all of these chemicals in the environment, a lot of contaminated places. And that's not just in Ohio, but that's in a lot of different places.
Well, part of the reason they can't do anything with those is because of the chemicals there and because the EPA won't let them clean it up. However, we're looking for villains, Michelle. Who do you blame for the ending of the railroads, the trolleys, the subways? Who do we look at to blame?
I think you follow the money, and you follow the big names that we've always been told. And so you have John D. Rockefeller and Henry Flagler founding Standard Oil in 1870, and that was just a mere 11 years after the oil boom in Pennsylvania, which was in Titusville. There's a lot of interconnections with Ohio and Pennsylvania, and coal for the steel mills in Ohio, and it was back and forth between Lake Erie, like Conneaut and Ashtabula, with the coal and iron ore. It's all connected to the steel mills. And so you have figures like Andrew Carnegie figuring prominently in that sector. You have John D. Rockefeller. You have Henry Ford with the cars, and they're ranked as like the richest men in American history, among others. But they're at the top, and so I believe there was a highly integrated energy grid that was functioning with free energy. It got destroyed. That's my strong belief that that's what we're looking at, the destruction of a totally integrated energy grid that was worldwide. And I think that area that goes through the Great Lakes, I think that was an important part of it. And I think it was with the railroads and the waterfalls and the canals and the lighthouses, it was like a hydroelectric powerhouse through that area. It's my opinion that when this energy grid was, I believe it was deliberately destroyed, it created the Great Lakes that we see today. All the water.
When they destroyed the energy grid, we're talking ley lines. Is that what we're talking about?
It would have been on the ley line. It's all connected to the ley lines. The ley lines were part of the energy grid. But when you start looking at, for example, I've been looking at the depths of all of the Great Lakes. They are quite shallow, especially Lake Erie. Lake Erie is the shallowest of the of the 5. So around the shoreline, it's not very deep. You get into the middle of the lakes before you start hitting any real depth. Lake Erie has the seiches. So you've got those times when the winds push the whole water in the lake in one direction or the other. I think it's normally from Toledo to Buffalo. And, so why is that? Why does that phenomenon even happen? Where you've got one end being emptied out and the other end just getting piled high with water. I think I pronounced that correctly, Seiche, which I didn't know about until I started looking at Lake Erie. And then you have the history of the shipwrecks. Well, they have shipwrecks because the lakes are shallow. And there's a lot of places where, there's so many shipwrecks.
Right. Well, how...
Most of them aren't known.
When...
So why...
When did the lakes get filled? When did that happen?
So I think what happened is something destroyed this energy grid, and there's so many waterfalls throughout that whole region, all 5 of the Great Lakes.
Right.
Waterfalls everywhere, and I found several that are emptying right into the lakes, and I think the system, whatever happened, destroyed this system, and the water just infilled. Is the conclusion that I'm coming to. And we're given stories about like the lighthouses, and they were all built at a certain time. Well, I think the lighthouses were part of this energy grid too. They weren't built when they told us. They served a different function, which, in my opinion, had something to do with light energy, distribution of light energy, and they were repurposed into navigational aids when, all of a sudden you have these rocky shores and shoals where ships founder. They needed, we get told they were used for navigation, but like I said, I think they had a different purpose.
Right, and who built them?
People here.
So not our industrialists in 1880. It was long before that.
Correct. That's correct. It's been here for a very long time. Very, very old places. The Garfield Mausoleum in Cleveland. Have you seen it?
Yes, it's spooky as hell.
And it's grand.
Yes.
There's a market in Cleveland. I can't think of it, but it's also a very old, ornate location.
The West Side Market.
The West Side Market. I can't pull it. Yeah, thank you. So there was a highly advanced civilization here. It wasn't cowboys and Indians. That's been part of the hijack. That's what Hollywood was for. Whoever was behind this, talk about the famous industrialists. You talk about the royal families and the Vatican, the Jesuits, the Franciscans were involved in this. The secret societies, besides the Freemasons, you had the Knights of Pythias and the Oddfellows, and the Elks even were involved in this, bringing everything back online after whatever happened, destroyed the surface of the earth and brought us what we see today. But we don't know any better because we've always been educated in this very specific historical narrative. And they're telling us that things were constructed when we had low technology in our narrative. So it's contradictory in itself right there. So I think whatever they were doing when they said that they were building it, they were actually digging it out and bringing it back online.
Michelle Gibson, alternative researcher, alternative history explorer. Amazing stories every week. Michelle Gibson, how do I find you online?
piercingtheveilofillusion.com is my blog website, and my YouTube channel is at Michelle Gibson 8946.
Next time, you're going to share with us who it was who took us offline and who's putting us back online. Michelle Gibson, thank you very much for being on Walter Sterling's Another Side of Midnight.
all night long. This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling.
Another Side of Midnight, Red Apple Audio Networks, Walter Sterling, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. It's a live radio show, a miracle of American media. Let me talk to you about this John Catsimatidis guy. He wrote a book called How Far Do You Want to Go? Now, why did he write that book? Because he started as a produce man in a supermarket, one supermarket. Shortly thereafter, he bought that supermarket chain. He bought the chain, and I've got to talk to him about this, an oil refinery. By the way, there aren't a lot of oil refineries. I want to know, how the hell did you do that? And who'd you get running that for you, John? John Catsimatidis. When I first got involved with this radio company, the Red Apple Audio Networks, I thought, all right. And then I learned some things very quickly. This is the best staffed audio company that I have ever worked with. I've worked with all the big boys, and I've always had a good relationship with them. I'm very happy to report I've always had a good relationship with my employer. Even though, like, the one that fired me because he was wrong, later told me he was wrong, didn't really solve the problem. But if you've ever been fired, it's better to have your former boss say to you, we were wrong, than to say, we're busy right now, gotta go. The most important thing to do, if you lose your job, let me pass this along. I've hired a lot of people. I've worked for a couple of big companies and a couple of little companies and a couple startups. I've had the full experience of employment. And the most important thing to do, if you are unemployed, if you are, what's the word? Undead, unalived, if you're unemployed, the word was already made for us, huh? The most important thing to do is keep your mouth shut. The dumbest thing you can do, the day, the week, the month you lose your job, do not go on social media, on LinkedIn or Facebook, and write things. Don't write anything. Don't post anything on social media, because whatever you post, you will regret. No matter how pleasant you think it is or how professional it is, don't do anything. Go for a walk. Take a week off. Give yourself and your family a vacation. Do not go on Facebook and say these are horrible people, or even say these were great. Don't announce your departure, because nobody cares. The best leverage you have is if other companies think you're still employed. That's the best leverage you've got. If they still think you're employed, they're not checking every hour to see who's working and who's not. Just shut up. Nobody cares. The only people who care are the people who you live with. And they'll screw up your sensibilities. They'll screw up your worldview. They'll make you make mistakes. Oh, we have to get a job. Really? Look at you. You're 50 pounds overweight. I don't need to get a job right now. We can wait a little while. You don't have to get the fries. You don't have to supersize anything until I get another job. Or, bonus track, why don't you get a job? Just some random thoughts that I've had during the course of my life. But don't post anything. You lose your job, just shut up. But John Catsimatidis, he built this and built his company and got a $4 billion fortune. He earned it. He wrote about it in the book, how he earned it. Great advice, solid advice. But the other thing John Catsimatidis did is, once he established his wealth, he said, you know what? I'd like to really try something new. And that's when he bought Red Apple Audio Networks and the radio stations that are a part of it. Respect, sir. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight.
It's another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
6 minutes past the hour, 6 minutes past the hour, the Red Apple Audio Networks. Good evening, Walter Sterling. Excited. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Momentarily, I was talking about the owner of the Red Apple Audio Networks, John Catsimatidis, a fascinating man, amazing success, wrote, How Far Do You Want to Go? And it's not like some high school movie. It's how far do you want to go to become rich? He was just in a movie starring Timothée Chalamet, very seriously troubled actor. The movie Marty Supreme. And the reason I mention it is he was in the movie. And he was great. It was hysterical. And Timothy was really great. And in my humble opinion, the story was like, what? But John was great, and Timmy was great. And tomorrow night I'm going to try to have John Catsimatidis come on and talk about Marty Supreme. He told great stories about on-set intrigue involving water bottles, but I want to hear his reaction to the Oscars, the Academy Awards. I want to hear how he felt about it, because I started watching it, maybe you did too, for about 90 seconds. And when I saw Conan O'Brien, where he was trying to go, I'm like, I thought we were past this. He started to tell jokes about, tensions in the world, problems in the world. And it was all with a wink in his voice that the problem was clearly the president of the United States, and he was going to go there. But he was punished. He was punished because the crowd didn't sync with him. It didn't keep up a continuous ambient applause, clap, little chuckle that took him from joke to joke to joke. Didn't take him from the surf of joke to joke to joke. He had to earn every laugh. They didn't give him anything. They judged every word he said as to whether or not he was going to get the ego prize of an award. It was very uncomfortable for me, Walter Sterling. No interest in hearing it. And I'm like, I don't need that. I got enough going on. I got daughters. I got 3 daughters. What else do I need? I don't need the problems there. Coming up in just seconds, we're going to talk about the most important thing in our lives, which is The Bachelorette being canceled. And the fact that you're driving an 18-wheeler right now, you're in a 4-wheeler. You and I are driving across the country together. Thank you. Indiana I-70. No, I take it back. That's my terrible handwriting. Indiana I-90 is considering putting up tolls. I-90 in Indiana is considering putting up tolls. There's the ultimate conspiracy. It has every mark of a crooked outfit. Have you ever heard one mayor, one governor, one potential president of the United States say, when I get into office, the first thing I will do is remove the tolls. The first thing I will do is get rid of the tolls. Consider, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that on any given day, the touch point between you and me is a toll. You and me and the government. Between you and me and the government is a toll. That's our primary contact with the government. There's nothing esoteric about that. There's nothing existential about a toll. It's a freaking toll. And every month, every year, every state gets better and better at collecting the tolls. They're wizards at it. Now they're coming up with AI software to read your license plate. Why is that important? Because what AI is going to do that a straight camera can't do is, if you have it blacked out, if you have that plastic cover over it, never a good move with the police. But if you do have it, because in most places it's not illegal, strangely, AI is going to be able to try to make out what those letters are and then match it with your car, the color of your car, the age of your car. It's going to try to figure it out. If it can't get a clear reading, it's going to be able through AI to figure out what your car is, whose car it is and mail you that summons in the mail. I can't imagine a dumber move than getting rid of the toll booths, because the toll booths being gone has taken toll collection to a whole new level. It's an Uber level. Now they have to get our license plate, match our license plate with who owns it, make sure it's ours, mail it to us, and then we have to mail the money back, and they have to track that in terms of when does it arrive and do we get extra fines and postage and stuffing the envelopes and the paper and all the whining about recycling. No problem when it comes to sending us toll tickets. The person who will be the next president of the United States, the next governor of our state, the next mayor of your town, is the one who says, and I will do whatever I have to do to get rid of the tolls. But the conspiracy is that two things. One, they talk to each other. I was shocked to learn that the people who run toll roads talk to each other. They have a daily newspaper, not a weekly. It's daily, and it's packed with information on how to collect tolls better, how to overcome local ordinances so that you can collect tolls, how to lessen the blow, how much you can charge, how high it can go, plus international news. New tolls going up in India, new tolls going up in Holland, tolls everywhere. Isn't it great? They talk to each other. The name of that newsletter is Tollway News. And you can find it online, and it's worth finding online to see what they're plotting against you and me to collect more money. Tollway News. There it is. It lays it out. The first time I realized they have a newsletter and they talk to each other, that began my journey to find out, well, how much do these crooks make? The first tollway in America was the Pennsylvania Turnpike. To go from New York, Philadelphia, to go from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, it's $60. Wow, that's horrible. Unless you're driving an 18-wheeler. It's $1,000. If you're driving an 18-wheeler, it costs $1,000 to go from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. Tommy at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Tommy, welcome to the Red Apple Audio Networks with Walter Sterling.
All right, Walter, and last Sunday at the Oscars, Barbra Streisand looked like Cousin It. And you should be really the school's chancellor in New York City. You have some great ideas. It's unfortunate, like guys like you who have the great ideas don't come near being the school chancellor. It's some public clown or some political hack that gets appointed, knows nothing about the school system. They don't, you know what, in New York City, they don't even know how many school buildings there are. They really don't. They're totally clueless on that. They don't know how many kids are in the schools. No. And we have a bunch of communists running the school system. That's what destroyed the schools the last 70 years.
Absolutely. Tommy, thank you very much for calling 800-848-9222. The shocking fact about not knowing how many school buildings they have, I was driving through Harlem, and there was a busy school, and I'm listening to the radio, and at that exact moment they were talking about how there aren't enough seats in the New York City public schools. There aren't enough places for all the kids who need to go to school. At that moment, ladies and gentlemen, I drove by a very large school, probably a high school, city block long, for sale, empty and for sale, empty and for sale, but gee, we don't have enough seats. Yes, the fact is, especially for special ed kids, and I know about that, the New York City public schools, and I've come to realize every public school system in America is not equipped to handle special needs kids, because the array, the spectrum of kids on the spectrum who have special needs is vast. No teacher can learn it. There have to be, categories. They have to be segmented in many different ways to be effective. But why do these schools all insist on teaching special needs kids? Why are they? Oh, because they get extra money for special needs kids from their state. They get extra money for special needs kids. Rich in New Jersey, welcome to the Red Apple Audio Networks. 800-848-9222. Walter Sterling, hi.
Hi, Walter. Fascinating story about your grandmother with the accent. It brings a story up. Friends of mine emigrated from Argentina back in the early 60s, and they were Jewish, and they all played soccer. They became the field goal kickers for the local high school, the two brothers. The one brother, I'll get to about the accents in a minute, but the one brother dies in the Marshall University football crash. We Are Marshall, the movie. One brother died. So Mo, he went on in business, and I talked to him, and they spoke Spanish. I wanted him to speak Spanish to his mother. You speak Spanish? He goes, yeah, I speak Spanish. I'm from Argentina, but they're Jews. He said, if I was to become successful in this country, I have to lose my accent. He said that. I remember him saying that. His mother would go, I think so. She talked like that. She was from the old world. But anyway, he goes to, he tries to get a small business loan, a minority business loan from the state. So he goes in there to get interviewed, and it happened to be a fellow, whatever, who said to him, we can't give you a loan. You don't sound Spanish enough.
I believe that, Rich. I do. And thank you very much for calling. Thanks very much for calling. 800-848-9222. Vic Ferrari is a retired New York City police detective. I don't like the official spokespeople for anything. I don't like anybody with a title. I don't believe them. But I do believe retired cops. Retired cops. Vic Ferrari is a retired New York City police detective. And I said, Vic, can you tell stories as though you were in a cop bar in New York? Could you tell us stories like you're in a cop bar in New York? And Vic said, sure. Listen to one of Vic's stories.
Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari.
Confessions of a retired NYPD detective, starring Vic Ferrari on Another Side of Midnight.
I'd like to talk about a neighborhood drinking hole in the 40 precinct in the Bronx known as Star Wars. Now, the real name of Star Wars was McSherry's Pub, and I'm guessing back in the day when the neighborhood was Irish, it catered to an Irish clientele. But by the time I arrived in the South Bronx in the late 80s, McSherry's catered to more an African American and Spanish clientele, and of course the cops from across the street. Now, Star Wars got its name because it looked like the scene inside of the Star Wars Cantina bar. You had pimps, hoes, drug addicts, hustlers, and of course cops from the 40 precinct that would stop in for a drink. And most of the cops that hung out in McSherry's were either retired or younger guys who, after doing an 8 to 4, really didn't have a wife or anyone to go home to, so they would stop in there for a couple of cocktails. McSherry's or Star Wars was the kind of place where the bartender, known as Dirty Dick, around 8 o'clock at night when Jeopardy was ending, would go around the bar and take $2-3 off of everybody's pile of money, hand out a paper and pen, and you would do the final Jeopardy question, and whoever got the correct answer would get the pot. Of all the infamous characters that hung around McSherry's, no one was funnier and wilder than a 5'3", 300-pound woman from the neighborhood known as Cookie. And Cookie was always hard up for cash, and she would go around the bar trying to hustle guys for drinks, hustle guys for money, and sometimes her antics got so out of control that the bartender would kick her out for a night or two, but then she'd always worm her way back. And sometimes Cookie would stand in the middle of the bar and start crying and complaining, my SSI hasn't come in, and I don't know how I'm going to feed my babies. I don't think Cookie had any children, but boy, did she lay that on thick. So one night when she was going on and on and on about being broke, a couple of the cops put their heads together and they came up with a plan. Everybody kicked up $5 and they told Cookie if she walked across the street into the station house and did a striptease in front of the desk, they'd give her $40 or $50. Well, you didn't have to tell Cookie twice, Before the cop finished the sentence, she walked across the street. She stood proudly in front of the desk, and Cookie was no stranger to the precinct. Everybody knew her antics. So the desk officer picked up his head, looked down, and ignored her. Before you knew it, she started singing and dancing, and off came her clothes. The desk officer went wild and had one of the cops throw a blanket over her, get her dressed, and have her escorted out of the precinct. Thankfully, Cookie didn't rat anybody out, and she was a good sport about it, but she did get to keep the money. Sadly, McSherry's and Star Wars are gone, but the memories live on. I'm retired NYPD detective turned author Vic Ferrari with Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right, yes, here, live, shocking, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222, 24 past the hour. Rick, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Yeah,
Mr.
just
Rick.
quickly, you were talking about the toll booths in New Jersey. There's such a ripoff now. I'm losing my mind. I had to go onto the Garden State Parkway the other day in emergency in the middle of the night, 3:00. There's no attendance anymore. It's all Easy Pass and then exact change, and it says change only for $1.80. Now, who's carrying $1.80 of change? Most people don't even carry cash anymore, but they don't allow you to give bills, just change. So I had to go through it thinking, okay, they're going to charge me by mail. Like you said, they take a picture of your license plate. I get the toll, $1.80, $50 administration fee. Now, this is the twice I've done this. The Bloomfield one has the same thing. In the middle of the night, there's nobody. $1.50, $50 administration fee. So they want $51.80 for $1.80. And the thing is, Mr. Sterling, there's no one there. You know, it's not like I didn't want to pay it. I had no way to pay it. They're kind of like trying to force you to get Easy Pass, even though you don't want to or don't use it. But if you don't have it, there's no way to get on these. We'll read your license plate, yeah, and charge you $50 for it. And I think it's a total ripoff.
Yeah, it is a ripoff. It's all a ripoff, and it's at root a ripoff because you believe that the reason you have to pay that toll is to maintain the road. And that is not what that money is used for. That money is used for primarily to pay off the bonds that they borrowed to build the road, which was paid off decades ago. Now, how, if the bonds have been paid off, how is it possible that they can continue to charge a toll? And I will tell you how. It's an amazing thing. If you were to get bored out of your mind and read the charter of the Garden State Parkway and the Jersey Turnpike, which I have done, it says the authority may continue to collect a toll until the bonds are paid off, unless, in the opinion of the authority, it is necessary for safety to augment the road, widen it, make it wider, add more lanes. In the interest of safety, it is necessary in the state of New Jersey to pour more concrete, Mr. Soprano, in the state of New Jersey. Then they can raise bonds and pay them off by collecting more toll until they're all paid off. As long as they're pouring concrete and going into debt, they can continue to keep a toll. But, my friend, I'm telling you, if any governor, where's that Sherelle? What's her name? The Sherelles? If that Sherelle and any mayor and any governor and any president says, my first day in office, I will do whatever I have to do to shut down those tolls. They would be the next fill in the blank. Thank you very much for your call at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Danny, oh my God, it's you. I can't believe you came here. Hi.
Hi, Walter. Where's TJ?
I will tell you the truth. Do you want to know the truth? Can you handle the truth, Danny? Thanks for calling. Can you handle the truth? The answer is, I don't know. Robert in North Carolina, welcome to Another Side of Midnight at 800-848-9222.
Good morning, Walter.
Good morning, Robert.
This is why I use Interstates 78 and 81 when I go through Pennsylvania to get where I'm going. I used to live in Suffolk County. I now live in North Carolina. Okay. So I don't pay any tolls that way. Now, I have a solution for the TSA shutdown. Do you remember, there's a union for the TSA, correct?
Isn't it a governor's workers union?
All right. Well, it's a union. A lot of unions have strike funds, correct?
It depends on the union, but I think that's a federal workers union.
Okay. Well, what the union could do is create an app in which you can download the app, and every person who is going to pay for an airline ticket will self-pay the TSA with a small nominal charge added to their ticket. Let's say $3 per ticket. That will provide enough money to pay the TSA workers. And there's not a damn thing the Democrats can do about it because it's legal.
Robert, anything to annoy the Democrats I agree with, just because. I don't know if that would solve the problem, because here's what happens usually when things get added on, like $3 here, $6 here, until the strike is over or until the funding is reestablished. Sorry, they're not on strike. Until the funding is reestablished. What tends to happen is those add-ons never go away. And you and I just keep paying for them and paying for them. Robert, thank you very much for calling the Red Apple Audio Network. With Walter M. Sterling at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222, Another Side of Midnight. Oh, look at that. It's 30 minutes past the hour with Walter Sterling on great radio stations like WGN in Chicago. Don't tell me that's pizza. 800-848-9222. He mentioned apps. No, apps is not going to solve the TSA problem. I don't really know how or why they got into problems, but I do know that I don't want to go to Newark Airport right now or LaGuardia, and especially Austin. There wasn't a line from TSA to the door to get onto a plane this week. No. There was a line from TSA out the door, down the sidewalk, over 1 mile in Austin, Texas. 1 mile to go through security. Much of this is nonsense because since 9/11, the way most security is done is not with the guy or the woman wanding you down, getting their jollies, and opening up your luggage. No, the way most of it is done is with facial recognition, that almost from the moment you and I walk into a terminal, we're on camera, and the camera is connected to computers, and those computers are deciding, do we look suspicious? Do we have to be stopped? Do we have to be given a second inspection? Should our ticket boarding pass say SSSS? There are many other ways to detect whether or not you and I are trouble. It can just be as much as a smile or as much as looking nervous. If we look, it can decide if you and I look nervous. It doesn't even mean that it's it's only because we're about to see our in-laws that's why we're nervous. They just pretty much assume that whatever we're doing is the reason that why we're nervous. But I want to talk to you about these apps. There are two apps that I urge you as your friend to get, and it will make you, one of them will make you amazed, and the other one will make you happy. And one of them I said, yes, this is what I've needed. I've always needed this app. I don't need those other apps. Mr. Softy. What? Yeah, there's a Mr. Softy ice cream truck app. And you put in your location. It finds you. It can GPS you wherever you are in America. And it can say, hold on a second. I have to readjust. Just a second. I've got to adjust. It's a live radio show. I can't edit it out the way a lot of these people do. I'm just here with you. It's just us. There's no one else around. That's the beauty of being at this time on the radio. You're 14 inches away from the speaker in your car or your 18-wheeler. I'm 14 inches away from this microphone. It's just us. Attention, Mr. Advertiser. I know for a radio fact there is no better way to move product off your shelf or services off of your spreadsheet than to invest in radio time right now. Because right now, it's just us. Is anybody around you? No, you're alone. And you're an introvert. Therefore, when you and I talk, it's important. You're working in the lobby of a building. You're keeping it safe. Thank you. You're sweeping the floors of a high school. Those rotten kids. Thank you. Cleaning up the train station to make it possible for others to go to work. Thank you. This is what we do. These are not tasks. What people who don't work overnight don't understand, we love working overnight. This is not a punishment time period. This is a great time period. I call it the great shift. This is the great shift because everybody who works on this shift decided to. It's not anything but that. And it is the magnificent silence and the beauty of the night at this time. I wouldn't give anything for. If anybody made the mistake ever of saying to me, would you like to work morning drive? No. I know the guys who work morning drive are brilliant at it. At every radio station, they're the sharpest ones, the funniest ones. I couldn't do it, number one. And number two, I wouldn't want to do it. First of all, good luck with that log. Inside Radio Fact, just good luck with that log. You keep that log. And every ear associated with that radio station is listening to that show. And when they get off the air at 10, the program director want to sit down and go over it with them. Oh, I can't imagine a worse fate than listening to the show with the boss. Oh, God. No, I'd never want to do it. But listen to this app, my friend. The Mr. Softy app. You got this, Tony? You got to get this. You got to download this. It's fast. It's small. What is it? It'll show a map of where you are and then icons of Mr. Softy trucks in that area. You will see where every Mr. Softy truck is. Oh, my gosh, finally an app I can understand. Finally an app I don't need the 14-year-old to explain to me. I understand this app. That is an app for me. Bonus, you click on the truck, and it shows you how long it's been in service. It's a veteran truck. How long has my Mr. Softy truck been in service? And it tells me the first name of the driver. I arrive at the Mr. Softy truck prepared for the driver. Is this the greatest proof of technology? This is what you went to all the fairs for, to the science fairs for at the high school, for somebody to invent an app that you, one, needed, and two, could actually understand. It's like, whoa. The other app, much more serious, but equally fascinating, in the most horrible way, but fascinating. Last week, you and I got to listen to Dov, D-O-V, a citizen of Tel Aviv, a truck driver. No, I'm sorry, a bus driver in Tel Aviv. And we talked to him live because I hate official spokespeople. Why the heck can't any of those so-called news places actually interview people who live in Tel Aviv? Where are those conversations? Dov drives a bus. He has 7 children and a wife, native of Israel, dual citizen, U.S. and Israel, lives in Jersey the rest of the time. A lovely, kind, good guy. And he was in Tel Aviv last week, and I'll have him on again next week. He had to come upstairs from his bunker, his bomb shelter, to talk to us on the Red Apple Audio Network on Another Side of Midnight. He came up and he talked to us, and he said, Red Alert, the Red Alert app. I said, what? The Red Alert app tells us when there are incoming missiles. I said, you have an app that tells you when there are incoming missiles to where? My home, my apartment, my street, my city. Pinpoints exactly where that missile is going to land. And then hopefully it gets shot down, and we get updates on that. In addition to a map that shows them the pinpoint where they're going to land or where they're aimed for, incredible details. Which city, when, which towns. Throughout Israel, the citizens have an app to alert them as to when the missiles are coming for them. For them. It's called Red Alert. It's SVOR and then Red Alert. And it's in English. You and I can understand it, and it's worth it. Because just a few minutes a day, I take a look at it for instant gratitude, for instant empathy for the people of Israel, and for the gratitude that I feel being here, protected by a real president. But those are the apps I would recommend, my friend. Mr. Softy and Red Alert. Both are free. One is worth it because it's just funny. Somebody thought this up. Oh, yeah, we need to know where the Mr. Softy truck is. And then the other is tragic that it even exists. Red Alert. Walter M. Sterling, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We were talking to Ross Coulthart from News Nation about the major general who disappeared. He disappeared 2 weeks ago. And information keeps coming out. And one of the things Ross Coulthart broke on this show, and he broke the story, and then he broke an update. And the update is that not only did he leave with his service revolver, the Major General, who knows everything about the UFOs and knows everything about the UAPs, and therefore was in constant danger. That man held all of the secrets of our military about UFOs and UAPs, all of them. Therefore, he was in a difficult spot every time he woke up. But what else we learned was that he was an expert in metallurgy, and he worked in the labs of the military. He worked in the labs of the military to help formulate rocket fuel and help formulate missile fuel and help formulate the materials that are needed to protect us. And he did it with another military official who was a chemist of note. Well, a month ago, she disappeared. Many of the people working on propulsion systems for our rocket ships, for dealing with UFOs and UAPs, they disappeared without explanation. Now, we also learned that the Major General's wife was not home, that he had been alone for about an hour. And also, thanks to Ross Coulthart from News Nation, exclusively here, we learned that I'm just looking at something. I'm deciding on something. Forgive me. We learned that he left with without his cell phone. He left with a service revolver. And why would people leave with a gun? What is the only reason anybody would leave with a gun? It's either because they're going to need a gun for whomever they're meeting up with, or they're going to kill themselves. Neither is a good story. But there's no explanation. And nobody saw him. And again, he lived in a place where he had neighbors. He lived, and he was popular. He was well known. He was respected. He was a triathlete, a 65-year-old triathlete. No ring camera saw him. No security camera saw him. Nobody saw him. And there was no evidence that he actually left the house. There's no proof that nobody could prove he left the house. No footprints, no ring cameras, nothing. I believe that he was abducted and that he wasn't taken out the front door or the back door. He's probably taken out a basement, taken out in a way that there's no camera on it, and that he was abducted because they didn't want him talking. He left. He disappeared the day after President Trump said, I'm going to release all the UFO files. What? Yeah, I'm going to release all the UFO files. And they're like, really? And then what's more amazing is the very next day, Trump has never mentioned it again. It's impossible to keep Trump quiet. I think we can agree on that. We can't really keep him quiet. But he hasn't mentioned this again. The day after Trump first said, I'm going to release everything, is the day this man disappeared. And Trump never mentioned it again. I don't think, as unpopular as this is, although many people say I'm wrong, I don't think Trump's going to release a thing. Because I think he said it when he didn't have authority to say it. And I also think there's a deeper, deep state. And the deeper, deep state lets the president know if you can talk about that or not. You can talk about that or not. What he'll do is he'll give up something. Probably from Roswell. Probably some propulsion information that we figured out that would let us go into space sooner than anybody imagines. That we have secret spaces on Mars. That would be safer for him than to say, yes, we have aliens. Because, my friend, the reason all of these governments, all of these presidents have not said, we have aliens, in my opinion, is because the minute they say that, they're not in charge anymore. The minute any president says, here are the aliens, I know where they are, I know what they're doing, but everything's okay. No, you're a guy. We want to talk to aliens. Yeah, man, we want to talk to aliens. How do you feel? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Networks. We're having the best time tonight. We learned from Ross Coulthart that he believes that the Major General has disappeared. He prays for the family that he's going to come back, but Ross does not think he's going to come back. We learned from Robert Clotworthy, the voice of ancient aliens. We learned that off the coast of Bosnia, is that it? Somalia. Sorry, off the coast of Somalia, 19 months ago, there were drones flying over the ocean. No, let me get this right. Yeah, there were drones flying over the ocean, and they saw a UFO, or there was a jet flying over the ocean, saw a UFO, shot at it, and it was as though it just went right through it without any injury, without any damage to that UFO. Just went right through it, like it was made out of a penetrable metal that would not be destroyed when something went through it. They're going to show that on Ancient Aliens coming up later this year. Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network, Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right. 10 minutes before the hour, Jake Novak, brilliant news person, Red Apple Audio Network. Jake, it's an honor to have you with me. Do you have anything big you'd like to lead with? Anything big in the news that we need to know about?
Yeah. Iran tried to fire, they did fire 2 intermediate range missiles at the U.S. base just a few hours ago in Diego Garcia. That's in the Indian Ocean. Now, what's interesting about that, well, first of all, I just want to make sure everyone, if you have loved ones there, one of the missiles failed on launch. The other was probably intercepted by U.S. anti-missile forces, but they're not sure why it didn't hit the base. So neither one of those missiles hit the base. However, that's 4,400 kilometers from the launch site in Iran. You know what else is about 4,400 kilometers from the launch site in Iran?
What's that?
London, Paris, even closer are places like Vienna. The idea that even after all these weeks of getting pounded, the Iranians could at least try a launch like that just goes to show that before the war, clearly they could have hit these targets. They could have hit them. They would have had more missiles to hit them with. The idea that this was not, Iran was not a major threat to Europe, and we know how feckless Europe is about defending themselves, let alone any other larger moral correct thing to do. So it's just something interesting to look at. I mean, they took a shot at a U.S. base. They didn't hit it, of course. And there'll be some people who just poo-poo at it and say, like, oh, well, they didn't hit it with nothing to worry about. Yes. We have something called attempted murder in our legal systems since the beginning of the Roman times. This is really quite a, it's alarming that they would have had these kinds of capabilities much greater just a few weeks ago. So make note of those who say that Iran was not an imminent threat. That's just a ridiculous argument.
For 47 years, yeah. Iran said, we want to destroy America. We want to destroy Americans. We want to destroy Israel. Sounds like an imminent threat to us. Put it this way. Let's say every month of our lives or every day of our lives, the Prime Minister of Canada said, I want to destroy America.
Yeah.
Do you think that would go on for 47 years?
Yeah, and I'll throw out something else because, we're talking about a military threat. Obviously, a lot of people, myself included, are, not loving the new higher gas prices. We get that. But we have to, but the 47 years comment you just made, Walter, is really important. Okay, so we've had about $1 increase per gallon of gas costs since the beginning of this war. The added cost to our gasoline in this country since 1979, because of Iran, because of the added threats that Iran poses, it's been a significant premium on our gasoline for 47 years. We're literally talking about hundreds, this is not an exaggeration, hundreds of trillions of dollars that we in the West, most of us here mostly here in the United States, have had to pay extra for our gasoline because of the premium on gas prices and our oil prices at the root cause, but then going all the way to the refined gasoline that has been caused by the threat of Iran. If Iran wasn't a threat to the rest of the world, oil would be cheaper. It would have been cheaper 47 years ago. It would have been cheaper every single year since. So honestly, look, I don't love the extra buck I'm paying for another week or so, however long it's going to be. But for 47 years, we have put in, as the American consumer has really spent, and the world's consumers, hundreds of trillions of dollars more for gas than we did before. So imminent threat, consistent threat, not even a threat, a reality right in our face.
If any governor was really concerned about the price of gas, they could get the price of gas down tonight. All they'd have to do is eliminate all of the state taxes, all of the city taxes in any community, and it would be stunning how far down that gas price would go. Not one governor has said, you know what, my people are suffering. This is terrible. We're going to set aside the taxes until the situation is resolved. That's what a human being would do. Same thing with the tolls.
Yeah, and they won't. Now we're hearing some legislators in Georgia and California are saying that. The governors aren't necessarily doing it. I think the best we've gotten from one of them is, well, we'll look into it. But the Democrats are very excited about this extra pain at the pump. The pain at the pump that they were explaining away when Biden was president when we had it for years at over $4 a gallon under Biden, especially those first couple of years. When they explained it away, they wouldn't do much about it. There were some red state governors that waived some taxes. That's true. But for the most part, the Democrats were explaining that away. The Democrats now are very excited about this extra pain at the pump. They love it. They love it because they can use it to say, hey, look what Trump's doing to you. And they don't care.
Mr. Novak, do you have other stories for us this morning?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other stories. You know me, Walter. I look at what the other mainstream media organizations are doing, outlets here, not only in the New York area, but nationally, and stories that they're ignoring. We have completely caught on video. I think this is a really, really big story here for the New York area. There is a distant suburb, but still a suburb of New York called Muncie, New York. It is a predominantly Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. Caught on video, this is confirmed. The person involved has been charged. A U.S. postal worker caught on video shoving to the ground a young Orthodox Jewish boy violently. That postal worker has been identified. He's been arrested, the whole 9 yards. Not a word about it here in the local New York news media overnight or this morning. Not a thing. It's just incredible. So I'll have some of the details on that. And plenty of other stories, including...
Why are they ignoring it? Why do you think they're ignoring that?
It's not in the narrative. They don't want to talk about it. They would rather talk about how... it's amazing how... I don't mind if people want to talk about injustice in the world or these kinds of... or hate crimes. Sometimes I think they do get overblown. I would rather just have law and order and stop slapping hate crime stuff all over it. That said... listen, this is what we've seen throughout the country. This is what's undermining the cohesiveness of the country. It's clear to every sane American, right, left, or in the middle, that there's different rules of justice in this country for different people, depending on who, if it's a crime, depending on who the victim and the perpetrator is. That's a huge problem. And this is the same thing for the news media. We play a big role in convicting or acquitting people when you really think about it, Walter. And most of the news media decided to get on board with this staggered type of justice. And by the way, I'm breaking my own rule. There is no modifying word for the word justice. It's either justice or it isn't. It bothers me that the U.S. Supreme Court has that engraving above it saying equal justice under law. Is there unequal justice? There's no such thing. It's either justice or it isn't. The term social justice is just an absolute disgrace to me. There's no such thing. It's either justice or it isn't. And when you have a nation or a society that decides, well, we're going to make a big deal about a crime if the victim is under this category or the perpetrator is under this category, well, that's a great way to undermine a society at its core. And it's happening here in America. There's absolutely no denying that.
Jake Novak, brilliant broadcaster, great journalist. It's so amazing to me as a radio guy that I'm live on a Saturday morning, and at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, Jake Novak is live on a Saturday morning. You got to understand, most of the other stations that you could listen to if you made a terrible mistake, you'd be listening to a recording made Thursday. Right now, the disc jockey or the newsman is at Ruby Tuesdays, sleeping it off in the back of his car. It's terrific, Jake. Look forward to having you every week on the show until you say, God, it really hurts my reputation to be on your show, Walter. I don't know if I can continue this.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right.
And we still have to talk about that E.L. Doctorow novel that I kind of predicted the whole Epstein thing. We've got to talk about that at some point, but maybe tomorrow.
What I'm trying to figure out with the Epstein thing, and we can talk about it tomorrow, is how does he have 3 million pages of files? The man did nothing.
That's right.
But generate emails his whole life.
Right. That's right. We can talk about that.
Jake Novak coming up in just seconds. Walter Sterling, the greatest gift you and I can receive is a request for help. Red Apple Audio Networks.